live here. Lecture 8, I know because we're keeping track of the recordings.
Thought it was 7.
Oh, we're definitely 8.
Me?
Definitely 8. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Sunday, Monday, and now we're on Tuesday. Definitely. And then I can give you the names of them if you want, because I've named them. Okay. Here. Okay. Anyways, you can roll live, and I'm going live here. Okay. So, lecture 8. Hopefully 8,000, whatever. In any case, so we're holding on Daf Gimel, Amud Aleph. As Hashem, we will start in earnest the Daf today. Just to remind you where we are in the bigger picture of things. Last week we finished Daf Beis. We had a simon for it. Beis is bias, and our simon was a house with a ani eating his dinner, a bread and salt with a Kohen standing on his shoulders, saying Kriya Shema. Then we had 2 days, yesterday and the day before, of the Ramchal's introduction to how to learn Agadata. The Ramchal said very, very briefly, really briefly, that Agadata is hidden in a language all its own, that the Chazal understand, and the interpretation is there and ready to be made, but it requires understanding their language. And I gave you numerous examples how if you are on the inside, you know what these symbols, these visual symbols mean because you understand the language it's referring to, and if not, they're just misleading or nonsensical symbols. So Chazal used something similar in terms of linguistic symbols and allusions to refer to things which, if you don't know what they're referring to, it's like a closed book. And Chazal embedded their wisdom in the Talmud for our purposes here through this metaphorical, this language of metaphor, or he had other ways too that it was sort of general statements that weren't qualified, or seemingly trivial statements which actually had significance. That's what he said. There was a PS at the end which is embedded in that, but I wanted to be madgish to emphasize, which is that he said many times they'll use metaphor based on natural phenomena, which was just working on the assumption of how the world worked according to their understanding back then, whenever it then was, whoever wrote the particular Midrash or Agada. And he says that was a useful metaphor for them, but as they're not talking about science, they're not interested in science, it's not the ikar of what they're saying, and if it happens to be what they're saying is wrong on a scientific perspective, that's neither here nor there in terms of what they're trying to say, but I emphasized, and so much so that he says they would use a different metaphor if they would have had a different scientific framework, but that was a useful framework for them to work out of because people understood those things, and that's why they spoke in that way, and but it shouldn't bother you in the least if the scientists have changed their mind about how this particular phenomenon works. It's just that if you want to understand what Chazal are saying, you better understand it in their language, in their context, obviously. And it can get a little tricky and can sometimes be a bit of a red herring to try to impute our understanding of science onto their understanding of how the world works. Earlier today we were dealing with the transmission of Tuma and the question of Masa and Hesed and Evan Masama, if those words mean anything to you, and we were trying to explain them in terms of modern physics. The mechanics being analogous to modern physics. I hope that wasn't a red herring. I hope we weren't barking up a wrong tree by trying to explain the principles by physical principles. But it's more reasonable to assume that if you're talking about the mechanics of halacha, that conform to how the world works. Because that's the Torah talking. That's not Chazal talking metaphorically. That's the Torah talking. And the Ramchal emphasized that the way the world works down here is very much, I don't know a good word for it, but it's very much connected with and like, what I want, like nested, that's not what I want.
Interlinked?
Yeah, interlinked, so it's something that I want something that's exactly like Zelu Mazeh. It's not just interlinked and intermeshed, but it's somehow like appropriate.
Corresponds.
That's a better word. It correspond, not just interlinked, but also correspond. The way it works down here and where it works up there are corresponding to one to the other in such a way that it wouldn't surprise me in the least that the way in which a legal phenomenon of Tumah conveyance works parallels the physical phenomenon of how, weight is transferred, which is totally different than if Chazal speak metaphors about, let's say the sun going around the earth, which they're not speaking as a matter of fact, they're just saying that's useful for us to understand something that's purely metaphorical, that metaphor to hand. But nowadays they might use a different metaphor because that metaphor wouldn't ring true, so it wouldn't make sense. but you have to understand the metaphor in their terms. But if they use such a metaphor, and it turns out that Taka, the sun, does not go around the earth, that doesn't have any impact on what Chazal are trying to say. They're not teaching you science, they're teaching you some other truth, and they just borrow that metaphor because it was useful for them. That's what we said. Fine, good. So now we begin Daf Gimel and Aleph. There's Hashem. So we're picking up on line 4, 2 words from the end. Don't forget to number your lines here so we can stay on the same line. And we're referring back to the Mishnah. You see there's like 3 words, Ad Sof Shmura, which is bracketed between like colons, 2 dots on either side. That's a reference back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah had said that the ending time of Kriya Shema is until the end of the Ashmura Rishonah, the first watch, according to Rabbi Eliezer. So now we're going to discuss what he meant by that. So, line 4 at the end. My Kasavar Rabbi Eliezer. What exactly did Rabbi Eliezer, what does he hold in terms of Mishmarot, these watches of the night? Now, Ikasavar Shalosh Mishmaros Havi Alayla, if his sheet is that the night's divided into 3 separate watches. Rashi says that the watches are there are 3 different shifts amongst the angels and what songs they sing and what they do at night in terms of their Hashem. So there's like 3 different shifts of the angels in the nighttime. And as we'll see in Daf Beis, there's a machlokas.
3 shifts of 4 hours, right?
Yeah, let me talk. Only me talk, please, for now. So that the night is divided into, there's a machlokas. We'll see in Daf Beis. Some hold that the night is divided into thirds, 3 watches. The angels have 3 shifts over the course of the night. And some say that the Malachim have 4 shifts during the course of the night. So he wants to know, now the narrator, let's call him, of the Gemara, wants to know, wait a second, which camp is Rabbi Eliezer in? Is he in the camp of 3 watches or 4 watches? And the point is, not for that point per se, but to figure something else out, which is that everyone agrees that the night is divided into 12 hours. Okay? That's Chazal's conception of night, divided into 12 hours. So those would be, let's keep everything super simple, like I said, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So the night's divided into 12 hours. For what it's worth, it would be adjusted for the length of the night. So if the night would be 1,200 minutes long, because you're very far north, let's say. So then each halachic hour would be 100 minutes, if you follow. But let's not get to that level of confusion now. It's not relevant for us at all. The night's divided into 12 hours, 12 halachic hours, and the watches are understood to be of equal length. So if you hold there are going to be 3 watches, that means the night's divided into thirds, and then you'd have a 4-hour watch, then a second 4-hour watch, then a third 4-hour watch, total 12 hours. Now I'll draw on the board in a second. But if you hold that the night is 12 hours and divided into 4 portions, then each watch would be 3 hours, and another 3, another 3. So that, of course, would be relevant, because if Rabbi Eliezer is saying that the night, the first end of the first watch marks the end of the time when people go to sleep. And therefore, that will be the last chance to say Kriya Shema before it's too late. It's no longer B'Shach, so on your lying down time. So I'm going to apply this up here. Let me think how to do this intuitively. I will do it. I hope this is the most intuitive way. I'll ask staff to correct it. That has to be a circle. And this is a watch. I'm going to put 6 down here, because that's where you would think of 6. Right? So this is 12 hours around. So this is the beginning of the night, and this will be the end of the night. Okay, so if you divide the night into thirds, so that's going to be at 10, at 2, and at 6. So it would mean, according to Rabbi Eliezer, assuming our night goes from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., that the Sofa Shmur Rishon, the first watch, ends at 10 p.m., and that's the last chance to say Kriya Shema. But if he holds there are 4 watches, so then each watch would be 3 hours long, and it would be at 9, 12, 3, and 6. Right? So that's the question. We're on to the question, which is, which framework is he talking about? Is he talking about a 3-hour watches times 4, or 4-hour watches times 3? But the actual punchline of the question is, whatever he holds, who really cares? The point is, why can't he say what he means? In other words, let him just say 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. What's he saying the end of the first watch for? That doesn't tell us anything at all. So that's what where the Gemara heads to. So it says, my kasav Rabbi Eliezer. What exactly does he hold? Ikasavar shalish mishoros havi alayla. Either he holds the night is divided into 3 different watches, and each one is 4 hours long. So then, lema ad arba shalos. Let him say you have 4 hours till, let's say, 10 p.m. in our framework to say Kriya Shema, and that's it. 4 hours of the night, then you're done. V'ikasavar arba mishmaros havi alayla. If he holds that there are a total of 4 watches of the angels during the night, so then each one is 3 hours long. Then lema, let him say ad shalosh shalos. Let him say you have 3 hours of the night. So from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then that's it. That's the end of the time to say Kriya Shema. So our question, for us the question is, let him say what he means. Let him say 3 hours or 4 hours. Why is he talking about mishmarot? Does that help us? So the Gemara answers, La'olam kasavar shalosh mishmaros havi alayla. First of all, as it happens, he holds that the night is divided into thirds. There are 3 mishmarot, 3 watches, each one of 4 hours long. But that doesn't answer our question of why he spoke obliquely. Why did he say what he meant? So, as a matter of information, he holds there 3 hours. But v'hakamash malan, the reason why he said it this way is to teach us De'ikim mishmaras barakia, just as up in heaven there are shifts of the guard and watches, there's also De'ikim mishmaras ba'ara. There's also some physical phenomenon that's a watch that corresponds to the watches of the... Something that indicates down here that the watches of the night are changing. Something down here also. That would already give you let's just harken back to what we had said moments ago about the Ramchal saying some kind of connection between upstairs and downstairs. Therefore, he's bringing to your attention that something upstairs changes and there's some sort of wiggling down here that you can tap into. So that's what we come to teach you. The reason why he said it as mishmaros is to let you know that there's a signal down here when the mishmar happens. That'll answer also your question, Baruch, a moment ago about how do they deal with knowing the nighttime without having a clock. So, the Tanya, as it says in a brisa, this brisa fleshes out Rabbi Eliezer thinking more. So this, if you're boxing them up, the brisa begins here on line 10. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Shalosh Mishmaros Havi Alayla. There you go, black and white. He holds there 3/3 of the night. Val Kol Mishmar Mishmar, and on each and every watch, Yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem sits, V'shoeg, and he cries out, he roars, Ka'ari, like a lion, maybe like a polar bear. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Hashem mimarom yishag. Hashem roars from his home, his abode, his dwelling place. Ma'on kadsho yiten kolo, from his holy. Marom implies like high up. Ma'on implies like home, I guess. So, I guess I'll translate it. As it says, Hashem min marom yishag, Hashem roars out from on high. Umama'on kadsho yiten kolo, from his holy home, he sends out a voice, a roar. Sha'og yish'og al nevehu, he roars. It defies translation in English a little bit, but there's 2 words of sho'eg there. Right? Sho'eg yish'og, he roars and roars. Al nevehu, on his dwelling place. That nevehu was a reference to the base of Mikdash, we'll see in a second. So, if you look at that pasuk that we're bringing from Yirmiyah, we have Hashem roaring 3 times. Hashem mimarom yish'og, he roars out from on high. Umima'on kadsho yiten kolo, he gives voice from his holy place. Sho'eg yish'og, 2 and 3, he roars over his home. So the 3 sha'agot, the 3 roars of the lion, are giving you some indication up in heaven of Hashem's response to these changings of the spiritual guards.
How is this connected?
Doesn't
The
say.
roar and the...
We got a lot to work out of us. Let's just take the words as they are. We'll get there. Hold your thought and write it down. We'll get there. That's Hashem. So, now the brisa, that's the end of the quote, but the brisa continues on. Now, the siman l'davar, there is a way for you to know down here when the guards are changing and the roaring is happening. Perhaps ambiguous if we're talking about those happening simultaneously or not, but in any case, let's assume, keep it very simple. Let's say Hashem changes that roars, the changing the guards, perhaps, maybe just during the whole time, whatever it is. And there's a sign down here for the changing the guards. The siman l'davar, how you can know it's happening. Mishmor Rishonah, the first guard, Chamor No'er, the donkey brays, or maybe it's a polar bear braying. Shnia, Kalavim Tzoakim, the dogs bark. And Shlishas, Tinok Yonach Mishtei Imo, the third shift of the night is when a child nurses from his mother. the Isha Misaperes in Bala, and a woman speaks with her husband, end of the Brisa. Rashi speaks out here that in terms of Isha Misaperes in Bala, a woman talking to her husband, we're not talking about, that's lavdaka. The point is people who are sleeping in a room together, they're stirring and waking up, and that's the time they have, like, I guess, their morning talk. People start to stir. So we'll take the Brisa on super duper face value, and we understand that you would need to know, there's a way to know what's happening upstairs in terms of the shifting of the guards, because down here, after the first watch, there is a donkey's bray. After the second watch, the dogs bark. And after the third watch, babies are getting up to nurse, presumably not going back to sleep again, because babies nurse all night, in case you didn't notice. And people who are sleeping in the same room, like a woman and her husband, get up and start talking, because the morning is coming and it's third watch time. And the Bryce. We'll have to work with that. But that's what the Bryce is saying on the face value. Now, Micah Chashav Rabbi Eliezer. Now, we're going to just analyze that Bryce. Taking it on face value, something's not adding up exactly. We're saying like this. We're saying that he holds like green, that there are 3 watches in the night. Okay. Right. So this is the beginning of the night, this is the end of the first watch, second watch, and third watch. And he said that there are 3 things you can know about over here. There's donkeys braying, there's dogs barking, and there's babies nursing and wives talking. Okay? So now, the Gemara's going to ask, let me say it outside for a second first. Because I'll say it outside and we'll go inside for a second. And say, wait a second, how are you going to divide this up? If you're going to say that this is the donkey, right? If you'll say this is time 1, this is time 2, this is time 3, so that's not really sensible. Why? I'm saying all outside first. Because that would mean that time 3, you need a sign to know that it's morning, because babies are waking up and nursing. But anyways, you would know, because it's the morning time, because when you see the sun is coming up. Or whatever, the dawn is breaking. And if you say, oh, I didn't mean that, I meant like this. It's marking the beginning, not the end of each watch. So then why in the world would you need a sign to let you know when the first watch is beginning? It's obvious, that's when the stars come up, at nightfall. So either way, why would we need 3 signs to the 3 watches when anyways we have a start and an end would be obvious to us? That's the Gemara's question where we're going here. So, inside the Gemara says, now, my Kachashav Rabbi Eliezer, what exactly is he thinking? What did he intend by these 3 moments? If what he meant is the onset, the beginning of each of the mishmaros, like I have it up there now, that the beginning of time 1 is donkeys barking, and times 2 is donkeys braying, time 2 dogs barking, times 3 babies getting up. So then, why would I need a sign for that? So, siman alamali. What's the point of having some sort of event down here? I need to alert me to the fact. There's an obvious event, or to who?
Maybe he's on 4 watches.
Oh no. I don't know. I'm not sure if I said something wrong or not. I'm not sure. Let me make sure I said it clear. Maybe I did, but I'm confirming again. I'm on line 16. My kachashav Rabbi Eliezer. What exactly is it thinking? If he means these 3 signs, 1, 2, 3, are for the beginning of each 3 watches, so then why do you need to watch a sign of donkey's braying for the onset of the first one? Because there's no point in that. Or to who? The onset is when night descends. Right? 3 stars coming out. So I wouldn't need donkeys, I can look for stars.
How do we know that's Orta's
I don't know, or we don't necessarily, but just it is. We don't know from this context, but it is, and it's born out elsewhere. It's night. Or you could minimally you could say we already had that Uvashimish B'Taher, the day is gone. That is the night. That is, and we had a Zeichel Davar about Seis Kochavim and the workday. So we have worked to some degree, but you should know as a matter of fact, like when the dust settles here, the stars coming out. Seis Kochavim, that's night time, and the new day begins. And when the first light appears in the morning, that's like what's called Alosa Shachar, the beginning of the new light of the day, that's the beginning of a new day, meaning the new daytime hours. Okay? Fine. In any case, the point is, but wouldn't matter here. The point is, whatever defines nighttime, whether it's 3 stars or whatever other sign it might be, which there isn't, so then that's what you use that. Who needs donkey's brain? And, on the other hand, if you say the 3 signs is giving you of donkeys, dogs, and babies is signaling you to the end of each of the 3 watches, so the same question would apply. It's not illustrated on the board exactly, but it doesn't matter. You wouldn't need a sign for the end of the night because you have morning, as the Gemara says. Sof mishmaros kachashiv, if what he intends to tell you is signaling when the end of each mishmar happens, then sof mishmara achrona lamali, samana. Why would I need a sign to let me know when the last mishmar is over? Yamamahu, it's day, whatever defines daytime, which I'm telling you happens to be, first light of Alos HaShachar. That would be your sign. So who needs, babies and wives talking? So the Gemara says, Ella, you're right, that's not what he meant. Ella, chashiv sof mishmar rishona, he means the end of the first watch, utchilas mishmar achrona, and the beginning of the last watch, ve'emtza isa, and the middle of the middle watch, which would mean like this. I'll look around here. It doesn't mean these things, it means these things. The end of the first, the beginning of the end, and the middle of the middle. Okay? You'll ask, who cares about the middle of the middle? Hold that thought. Oh, wait, but anyways, that's what he's saying. So, fine. Now that's one answer the Gemara gives. The iboy seima, that's the olive business. And if you want, alternatively, there's a second equally internally consistent explanation, which doesn't have that problem, that kulu sof mishmaros kachashiv. The truth is, he actually meant the end of each watch, and the question was, well, who needs that? Morning time will signal to you that the last watch is over. V'chiteima achrona lo tzarech. I don't need a final signal because dawn has come. That would be my sign. L'may nafka mina. I'm sorry, can I? L'may nafka mina. So why would I need to know that last time if I have daytime break? It's lemikri kriyashma. It's to know when say kriyashma. Leman degani bebeis afel. For a guy who's sleeping in a dark room. And it's very nice to say that if you look out on the eastern horizon, you'll see the faintest shimmer of dawn coming. But if you have the curtains drawn, you have no way to know if day is coming. And therefore, when you hear people waking up, or it's a cloudy day. Correct. It's a cloudy day. So the point is, it's not a useful sign because, as a matter of course, you're inside your room and it could be dark inside a cave somewhere, whatever it is, and whatever. So for that reason, we're giving an alternate sign, which is useful to people, which is the guy in the dark room, lo yeda zman kriyashma emas, he won't know when to say kriyashma, kivan de isha misaperesim bala, when his wife starts talking to him, the tinok york imo. By the way, I have a strong feeling, it's just a hunch, if you will, that there is no such concept of privacy in the good old days, which there never were any good old days, and it's probably hearing other people's wives talking to other people in houses and rooms next door because they didn't have the insulation and the luxury of space that we have today. And it probably means that if he hears people chatting around the apartment building or whatever the second century become your equivalent to an apartment building is, when he hears that going on, it's time to get up. And same with babies, not necessarily his baby getting up, or maybe yes, but even he'll hear the neighbor's baby's getting up and start to have to get fed, and that will be signaled to him. I'm just saying it's not his wife per se; it's even other people's wives. In any case, so when he hears that activity happening, so in Leikum Velikri, let him get up and say Kriya Shema because it's morning time. Okay, so. Let's just summarize what we said so far. We had the Mishnah had said that Rabbi Eliezer holds that the ending time of Kriya Shema, meaning after this time you're no longer Yotzi, is when people go to bed. People go to bed by the end of the first watch. Watch is an ambiguous term. Some people understand watch to be a third, and some understand watch to be a quarter of the night. So we asked which one is Rabbi Eliezer's, and we answered, by the way, he holds it's a third of the night. But our main opening question was, either way, why can't he say what he means? Let him say 3 hours or 4 hours. Let him say 9 or 10 p.m. What's this business about watches? It's to teach you that when the watches shift, there's some simon down here, there's some event down here on planet Earth that will tip you off to it. And that tip-off will be the donkey's brain. The Brisa says there are other tip-offs also. The second watch is somehow designated by the dogs, either the end of it, either the middle of it or the end of it. You have two shittas. And the third third of the night you can know is happening because of either their babies wake up or the wives start talking to them to their husbands. So that's what we said so far. Let me, before I go back, and there's much to say here, let's just read a few more lines because they're interconnected. Amr b'Yitzchak bar Shmuel, Mishmei de Rav. Yitzchak bar Shmuel said in the name of Rav, Gil Mishmar's Havi Elayla. Rav also held that there were 3 watches in the course of the evening, 3 shifts of the angels, and V'al Kol Mishmar Mishmar, and upon each Mishmar, Yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'shoed Kari, Hashem sits and he roars like a lion, V'omer, and he says, Oy levanim, woe to the children, She'abav Nasehem, Hechravti Espesi, that because of their sins I was forced, those are my words, to destroy my home, V'sarafti es Hechali, and burn down my sanctuary, V'gleisam levein umas ha'olam, and I was forced to scatter them, send them to Galus, to exile them amongst the nations of the world. So that is a PS, which gives you a little more of color to what it is that Hashem is saying or meaning when he, so to speak, is roaring like a lion over these 3 watches. So we're tying it in here now to the Beis HaMikdash. You need to understand that, right? You see that up to that point, Hashem was roaring, but exactly what he was roaring about wasn't so clear, although the pasuk, this is really embedded in the pasuk, which you see now, he's crying al nevehu, he's crying over his home, which is the Beis HaMikdash. But back then would be a little ambiguous what he means. Now we have the statements here, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shmuel, Mishmei de Rav, that it's Hashem is crying out over his Beis HaMikdash, that he was forced to destroy it and exile his people. Through this, he said, forced to destroy it and burn it and exile his people. That's us, his people, because of their sins, and that's what he's roaring about throughout the night. End of this. So yeah, I'm sure you have lots of questions. Yeah, we can throw them out. I probably won't answer them, but at least throw them out.
Okay, it's like, what is this? Before this, there was no 3 Mishmarot, whatever. Like before that, before the Beis Mikdash was destroyed.
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, so I guess that's a great question. I'll answer right now. So that's a given phenomenon. I guess how the world works up there. The angels do their thing, and they have their shifts, and they were always doing their thing since whenever until whenever.
And none of these things are universal. I mean,
that's a different question. But your question about, so I'm just answering this question first, which is, yeah, the Malachim had their shift changing since whenever. Like if you look in the Meforshim there, when Jacob wrestles with the angel has to go because it's changing. This is what's going on here. He's got to go. Sorry, now his shift is up. He's got to go. That's what's happening over there. In any case, so that precedes the basic Mikdash. My point is. But the innovation we're seeing here is that not just that the angels shift guards, but that there's some way to know when they're shifting. And why would you care? Well, because I'm now going to give you a bit of a segue into how the halachic authorities understand the significance of this sugya here. You need to know when the shift is happening because Hashem is crying out over the Beis HaMikdash, and it's an auspicious time to tap into that and also cry out over the Beis HaMikdash because it's because of our sins that this has happened. We want to undo it. That's where this is. That's how Rabbi Gaon and the Russians will understand the significance here. I'll build it on more. But so all we're learning here is there's a way to know what is happening upstairs, and that's important to know because there's something to tap into then here because it's an opportunity for us to say daven for. Yeah. You want to hear your question? Yeah. Okay.
These are not universal occurrences.
The donkeys and if it helps. So we'll have to get back to that. Let's assume, just to take it super simple now, that if you'd be living in a rural community in Babel or where there are donkeys and dogs, apparently if you would have moved to Beit Shemesh 15 years ago, on your way to shul in the morning, you'd be chased by wild dogs. That was like a regular. You can ask the people who came here when they moved in 15, 16 years ago. In any case, so I guess anywhere where there are wild dogs and there are donkeys, which I guess was more or less everywhere in 2nd, 3rd, 4th century BC, Common Era, you would hear the donkeys. Nowadays, of course, we don't hear donkeys, thank God, we're trying to sleep.
Malachim are also using these simanim?
No, it's Malachim know what they're doing. I don't know if they're a clock says, but they know what's going on. I mean, what's really happening, Malachim, without getting to that topic again today, there's like different spiritual, like different phase in the day where there's different, Hashem is acting different modes, if you will. And so the angels that are on duty are the ones that are corresponding to those particular modes. Hanhagas Hashem. It's too much to get into, like so off topic. But anyway, not off topic, but off topic I want to get to. So the Malachim would shift per force by the fact that Hashem has changed the way he's, like for argument's sake, let's just sort of illustrate, sort of oversimplify. If Hashem runs half the day with Chesed and half the day with Din, let's just say for argument's sake, so like the Chesed Malachim, so to speak, would go off duty, the Din Malachim go on duty, if you know what I mean. That, to sort of super oversimplify, but to illustrate what I mean by that. So the different phases of the night, and they're coming and going as they're doing what they do. Fine, good. Yeah.
So you're saying, Rabbi Eliezer is saying the donkey's braying is the beginning of the first watch? Or?
So we had two opinions. We had either, correct. It's either not the beginning, no, it's the end.
It's the end.
Everyone agrees it's the end. It's either, the first opinion was end of first, end of second, end of third. And if you'll say, what's the point of that? You don't, that was the second answer, really, the truth is. The second answer. The first answer was the end of the first, the beginning of the third, and the middle of the second. And then the other answer was, it also could be the end of each, so really we're, right, the end of each. But the end of each, so this stays where it was, but instead of middle we could say end, instead of beginning we could say end. And if we'll ask who needs the end, what would be the point of having the end of the third watch? Is the daytime, the answer is, well, if you're in a dark room, you won't know when to say creational. That was the point. Yep.
So
I maybe should have two colors that would more to it.
So both are correct, or but you have to.
That's a good question. That's a good question. Now, it's not just an academic question, because we'll see in a minute that will have mass implications in terms of when to say Tikkun Chatzos. That's what is going to go. I'll get there in a second. I'm going to do in two different colors here. Either it's the end of the first, the beginning of the third, and the middle of the middle, or it's the end of the first, the end of the second, and the end of the third. Those are the two versions. Okay? So the question is, well, like, who really cares? And that's what we're going to. So I'll tell you who really cares.
It's interesting that for some in terms of the end of the third, which is daybreak, the Gemara doesn't put in a rooster.
Okay, no. We're not. Floor is not open to comments. Open to questions, but not to comments. So.
So how would they know it's the end of the first watch if they didn't have watches? It's 6 o'clock.
The donkey brays, that's how they know. And at the end of the first watch. The first watch begins when the 3 stars come out. End of the first watch, when the donkey brays.
And that's at the end of every first watch, the donkey brays?
Let's say. So, let's say. Now, so that's understanding this Gemara very literally. There's actually literal times to be signaled. So you don't have a stopwatch to know what happens. That was your question mark. The answer is, well, you're a donkey braying, you know it's too late, the time has come. That's the simple understanding. So now, many people understand this to be of the Agadata variety. That we're talking about here are Agadic concepts, but Rav Hai Gaon and the Rush, and I want to talk about the halachic part first. The Rush understands this to be an actual halachic sugya with significant halachic significance. He understands that Hashem is crying out over the base of Mikdash, and it's proper for a person to, when Hashem is sensitive and feeling the pain of the base of Mikdash, to tap into that and also do the tachanunim, these like special prayers that are hopefully tikkunim to get the base of Mikdash back where it's supposed to be. And I'm sure you're aware of such a thing called Tikkun Chatzos, where people do pray at night for the base of Mikdash. Sfarim seem to be better than Ashkenazim for whatever reasons. But in any case, there is such a thing. Now, if you understand the first answer, which we'll call the orange answer, right? 1, 2, 3, end of each watch. So that seems to be the first and primary answer. There's no mention of chatzos there, I should point out to you. And the Rush understands that's how the sugya ends, and he paskins that way. What do I mean by that? Okay, so let's take a moment to discuss this about the Rosh. So the Rosh. This is our first. The Rosh is an important player, an especially important player in the halachic process. We're talking about him as the Rosh, abbreviation. It stands for Rabbeinu Asher. His full name was Ben Yechiel. He lived in from 1250, I think, to like 1320 something, 28, 26.
Where was he?
That's a good question. So the Rosh, he starts out in Germany. He was a Talmud of the Maharam in Rothenburg, who's one of the most important Balei Tosfos. Maharam was he is one of the Balei Tosfos. He's an important Maharam is a very important player, and he's from Rothenburg. That's the Maharam in Rothenburg. But there was a school in Worms. This is all in the Rhineland and southern Germany today, where Rashi also was. And you can actually go there. I've actually been to Worms and seen that base midrash, where the Rosh learned from Maharam and Rashi. It was Rashi's shul and so on. You can see there and so on. The famous story of Rashi's mother getting into the wall. That's all over there. It still stands. You can go there and you can see it. In any case, so the Maharam student is the Rosh. By the way, if you know the Maharam story very briefly, the Maharam is the one who, I think Rudolph the First, he basically tried to capture him. He fled from Germany to Switzerland, but they caught him anyways. They held him ransom, and the Rosh raised the money. The Rosh, Rabbi Asher, raised a fortune, a king's ransom, to get the Maharam ransomed, but the Maharam refused. Maharam refused to be ransomed. He says it's a sugya that you're not allowed to pay more than fair share for someone to ransom them, because if you do, that will just mean that they'll go and the Goyim will ransom more and more, people. So the Maharam said, I'm not allowing you to ransom me at more than, I don't know what fair share is, but at an unreasonable king's ransom, you will not pay. And I'm better off staying in prison and dying. And that's what happened. Maharam refused to be redeemed. The Rosh had the money, but he wouldn't let him do it, and therefore Maharam died in prison. I think he sat rotting for like 13 years, and then eventually someone named Wimpfen was his name. Shlomo Wimpfen, maybe his name was, I forgot now. Eventually paid to have his body redeemed under condition that he should be buried next to the Maharam in Rothenburg. And you can go. If you go to Worms, you will see, there's a grave there, I'll send you a picture if you want, of the Maharam, the Rebbe of the Rosh, and this fellow Shlomo Wimpfen, I think his name was, there side by side, he redeemed him. In any case, so that's a sad story of the Maharam, for another time. But the Maharam's main student was the Rosh, and the Rosh is here, Ben Asher, Ben Yechiel.
His son was the Baal
That's right. And his son, the Rosh, Rabbi Asher had a son whose name was Yaakov. So Yaakov ben Asher is the Baal HaTurim, the person who wrote the Torah, which I'm not discussing now. But in any case, so this is like an important person. So this happened in Germany. Later on in his life, he fled because things are bad in Germany, as you can imagine. He ended up in Spain. I think he died in Toledo, in Spain. Interesting story. In any case, so that's that. So he lived 70 odd years. From say 1250 onwards. Now, if you look in your Gemara, if you have a regular Gemara as opposed to Rashba Gemara, the first guy, you call him that, the first guy you put on the back of your Gemara when you finish is the Rosh. So that's, in other words, here's my Gemara over here, just the last page. You guys should get there sooner or later. So then, basically, you have a summary, a one-page summary of Tosfos and Halachos. But then here, Sefer Rabbeinu Asher, that's Rabbeinu Asher, the Rosh, and here begins, there's a little Dhamma here, but there begins the Rosh. Get the top part of the Rosh. So the Rosh did, and this is very important for us meaning Klal Yisrael, us, is he went through sugya by sugya and cut out all the Agadic portions and cut out all the discussions and cut out all the stuff that wasn't applicable to, like the mitzvah Tuliyas Ba'aretz, like stuff that had to do with the Eretz Yisrael mitzvahs. He cut that all out, and the practical halacha, I guess if you're sitting in Germany in the 13th century, is he bottom lined it and he made halachic rulings on each one. He took each sugya and gave a bottom line, like how the sugya comes out in the pasuk. He does that for the whole of Shas. Okay, he was essentially the second person to do that. The other person was the Rif, who was much before him. We'll discuss the Rif another day. Okay, but anyways, there essentially are, of the early Rishonim, like these guys, only three people, the three early Rishonim who went through the whole of the Talmud and gave ruled in each thing what to do, practically speaking. Bottom line, that the Rosh, the Rif, was his predecessor. The Rosh is an Ashkenazi Jew, right? From Maram, straight from the Bali Tosfos line. The Rif is like the granddaddy of Sephardic Jewry. He was essentially like the great-grandfather, if you will, in terms of Rebbe Talmud of the Rambam. And the Rambam is the third. But the Rambam is different. There's also another discussion another time. But the Rif goes in order. The Rosh goes in order, sugya by sugya. Like, if you look at the Rosh here. So, Os Aleph, paragraph 1 discusses the sugya about Kriya Shema in the beginning times. Os Beis, paragraph 2, which begins over where it begins. Os Beis, paragraph 2 discusses our sugya. He's going to go through, sugya by sugya, saying what to do as a matter of halachic practice. The Rambam did something differently. The Rambam, unlike the Rif and the Rosh who go in order, the Rambam just said he's smarter than everyone else. He basically wrote the whole Kol Torah Kula, as we discussed in the introduction, sort of in the first days, and reorder the whole thing, including the Yerushalmis, including the Siktas and Price and everything. So the Rambam is his own kettle of fish for another day. But why am I saying that? These three players, the Rif, the Rosh, our guy for the minutes, and the Rambam are the three heavyweight poskim of the Rishonim, who the Shulchan Aruch, who ended up becoming the guy who was Koveya, Yosef Karo, who was Koveya, what our practical halachic book looks like, he had to decide what to do in terms of what's practical Jewish another, what should we do? We have lots of shittas, lots of opinions. So he basically, loosely speaking, Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Shulchan Aruch, Mechaber, we'll call him Mechaber now, the Mechaber, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, basically took best 2 out of 3 of those 3 guys. So the Rambam, the Rif, and the Rosh. So that's why the Rosh is major, because he is so to speak, 1/3 of the halachic weight behind the Shulchan Aruch. Now, a few caveats. Number one, you got to understand, it wasn't really a fair fight, because I told you that the Rambam and the Rif are really on the same side. The Rambam was a direct student, the Rif, whatever, 2 intermediary people, but it doesn't matter. Close line. And the Rambam in his Hakdama actually says, he had great deference for the Rif, and he said, I only argue with the Rif in a handful of places. He says it in his Hakdama. I'm agreeing with the Rif in over a handful of places. That is a statement we can contest at another time. But the point is, the Rambam saying he's on board with the Rif in terms of halachas. So if you're doing best 2 out of 3, it's not quite a fair fight, right? You have the Rambam and the Rif, who essentially they're in one team, and the Rosh on the other. So that's not a fair fight, obviously. And so the Yosef Karo was Sephardi, and you have 2 Sephardi and 1 Ashkenazi, and hence, not surprisingly, based on that methodology, the Shulchan Aruch becomes a useful book for Sephardim, and Ashkenazim weren't so excited about this because their customs weren't quite aligned with what he was saying. Yeah, that's also a story from the time, but that's when the Ramah, Moshe Islos, came along and said, well, I'll just supplement with this mapa, tablecloth, these glosses, insertions to say where the Sephardic custom is really different than Ashkenazi custom. We Ashkenazim do something a little differently. His methodology was different. He relied on the last of the Rishonim, sort of the first of the Rishonim. All these are discussions we can have another time. But the point I'm going to bring to you here is that the Rosh is the, so to speak, the spokesperson, if you will, of the Ashkenazi tradition as we find it in the Shulchan Aruch. And that's very important because, why I'm saying that all now as opposed to another time, it's always true, but it's relevant right now because the Rosh understands that our sugi here in Daf Gimel Amud Aleph is telling us when to get up to daven over the Beis HaMikdash. And since the Rambam and the Rif didn't say otherwise, the Shulchan Aruch brings it down, not just anywhere, it's the second halacha in Shulchan Aruch, and the third. If you want to, you can look at it's the Os Beis, it's a short little paragraph, I'm not going to read the Russian side, but I'll read you the Shulchan Aruch inside here. So this is Siman Aleph, the very first chapter of the Shulchan Aruch, Or Chaim, and Sif Beis, point number 2. It says, Hamashkim lischanen lifnei boro, someone who wants to get up, mashkim, early. Remember we had that word mashkim by Ezra getting up early, perhaps for the workday to start early. So mashkim, someone who wants to get up early, like hashkama, hashkama meaning lischanen, to supplicate lifnei boro, to pray to his creator. Yechaven la'asos, yechaven l'sha'ot, he should try to align his tefillahs to the times shemishtanos hamishmaros, that the watches up in heaven change. So this language of the Shulchan Aruch is our Gemara language. Shehen b'shlish halayla. So we're in an orange world, you see. The first third, u'lesof shnei shlish halayla, the second third, and u'lesof halayla, and the third third of the night. Shahat Tefillah, she is Pal Ba'os and Sha'os, davening at those times, Allah Churban, Valagalus, over the destroyed temple and the exile, Rutsuya, are especially, propitious, they're effective, especially acceptable, I don't know what the word is, especially accepted by Hashem in those times. So the Rosh understands, our Sugi is telling a basic halachic point, which is you need to know when the thirds of the night are, because if you're going to get up to prayer with the Beis HaMikdash and the Gullus, those are the times to do them, because Hashem is crying out. That's a possible halacha. There's actually, the Rosh also said another thing. You might think that, well, I'm not going to get up in the nighttime, and probably shouldn't, but certainly not in the thirds of the night, you probably shouldn't, for other reasons, because you need your sleep. But halacha, in Sif Gimel, the next line, which is really part of the same sentence that the Rosh said in his halacha book, back in of our Gemaras, he says, and this does apply to all of us, Ro'ui, it's appropriate, l'chol yirei shamayim, that every God-fearing person, shehei meitzar v'doeg, he should be pained, he should feel the pain, and doeg, he should be worried about, like what am I going to do about, al churban beis hamikdash. And that's a separate halacha, which would apply to all of us, assuming we're in the yirei shamayim category, that a person should feel meitzar and doeg, pain and worry what to do about the Beis HaMikdash. This is a halach in Shulchan Aruch, which is learned out of this sugi here, based on the Rush, directly brought from the Rush. And the Mishnah Berurah brings on that latter point, the Shla, who says, and it's only a Shla. Shla is like, I guess, 17th century, so that's like way later down the road. He says, oh, our custom, I'm going to think it's exact Lashon here. No, and it's not our custom. The Shla advises that, and the Mishnah Berurah brings it, and you've taken it on, later not, already realize it, that at every meal we should remember the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, on Shabbos and Yom Tov, we say Shir Malos B'Shuv Hashem, like whatever that means, Song of Ascents, the Shir Malos, that Hashem will finally return to Zion. That's the looking forward to. But during the weekdays, we don't say that. That's not really morning, right? But it's not proper morning on Shabbos. We say Al Naros Babel, another chapter of Tehillim Psalms, where we say we sat on the shores of Babylon and we cried there. That's crying over the Beis HaMikdash, and that's the Shla. There's no difference between, as far as I can tell, no difference at all between saying Al Naros Babel during the week and saying Shir Malos during Yom Tov and Shabbos. I don't know why. No one, I don't know who says Al Naros Babel, but probably many fewer people say Al Naros Babel than say Shir Malos. I don't really know why, but that's the fact. But that custom that we all do is based on this Shla, going on this halach in Shulchan Aruch, which is coming from the direct quote from the Rush, who he sees in our Gemara here.
Why doesn't the Shulchan Aruch talk about the Gullus?
Why does he?
Yeah, why doesn't it? It doesn't say. It just
it
says,
does. No, it says.
Just as the Beit HaMikdash.
Well, okay, you're correct. In Halacha Gimel, it says you should be concerned over the destroyed Beis HaMikdash. True. In Halacha Beis, he says you should cry over the Gullus, the Churban and the Gullus.
Okay.
But your point is well taken. He's focusing here in terms of the Halacha that we all should certainly be worried about the destroyed Beis HaMikdash. Without a Beis HaMikdash, we can't bring korbanos, we can't affect various kapara we need, and so on. That should really concern us very much, as well as all other things that the Beis HaMikdash does for the cosmos and for humanity and so on. In any case, so that's how the halachists see how this sugi plays itself out, and it has direct implications to Shulchan Aruch. And there's no Ramah arguing with it; it's black and white. So therefore, you have 2 points coming out of this: la halacha according to the Rosh, and the Shulchan Aruch Mechaber passes it. If you're going to daven to the Beis HaMikdash, get up at the thirds of the night, and aside from that, every year Shema, if you can't get up at night because you're too tired, you should be concerned. Doeg is concerned what you can do about it, and Meitzar is pain over the Beis HaMikdash. Now, I will tell you, if you know anything about Tikkun Chatzos, Kabbalists, the Talmidim from the Zohar and the Rizal, would look at this and they say, oh no, you guys got it all wrong. The proper understanding of this sugya is not the second Iboy Seima, not the orange one. No, it's the brown times. Because it's Chatzos, it's midnight. And according to the Rizal, according to Zohar, the time to say Tikkun Chatzos, when they do say Tikkun Chatzos, is not at the thirds of the night, but at midnight. Right? So there's a machlokas between the nigla, like the hagon and the rush, on the thirds, versus like the Zohar and the Arizal himself of it being at midnight. Interestingly, the Mishnah Berurah says your best move is to daven a few minutes before midnight if you're going to follow the Zohar stuff. I'm not a Kabbalist, and who am I to take up issue with the Mishnah Berurah, but I suspect that the Kabbalists would have a bit of a fit among what little I know about what they think about midnight, and say, no, you can't, definitely not davening until midnight and after, not davening before. It's the wrong time of, the wrong malachim or the wrong forces are engaged before and after midnight. Either way, the Mishnah Berurah, which is Kovea for us Ashkenazim out here, other Sephardim in this, I'm hesitant. Any Sephardim here? Not a single Sephardi. Then I'm relieved to keep on saying, to qualifying it. We Ashkenazim, is everyone here, really are influenced by the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says, get up at Chatzos. He says a few minutes before, you can take that, if you're going to do a Kabbalistic thing and say Tikkun Chatzos, you can go with the result. And then he says, I have to say this, I have to stick it to you. He says, quoting from the Ber Heitzev, but he says, then after you've davened your Tikkun Chatzos, the first thing you should do always is learn Mishnayos. Mishnayos, he says, exact word is, I'll get the exact words, so I want to say them. There's a plug from Mishnayos here. He says, I don't see it in a second. His words are that approximately, a direct quote is like a shir of Mishnayos, a seder of Mishnayos is quoting the kol, should always come first, and first thing first Mishnayos, and then also the Mishnah Berurah says, and then after that, if you are zocha to the chachmas emes, which is Kabbalah, this is a great time to learn it. After you've done Tikkun Chatzos and learning Mishnayos Seder, then until morning time, you're staying up all night learning. That's Kabbalah time if you know how to learn Kabbalah, says the Mishnah Berurah. And that will stop there for today.